sister. Good morning.
Why, good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm on the struggle bus, I'm going to tell you.
You are struggling today. I feel like you're struggling today. What happened?
Well, here's what happens. When technology fails you, the world falls apart. And so we're laughing about this. Our guest has been fantastic because my computer says 8:03. It is actually like 8:20 because my computer crashed this morning and my world has
Very
ended.
embarrassing.
It
It is
was.
actually fairly embarrassing. I texted her like 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I want to jump in. I mean, are you going to sing something?
No, I think since we're all back in black. I mean, I could sing Back in Black. Back in Black. Sorry. You can tell I was born in the 70s. And so everybody's singing that. Now you're not going to be able to get Back in Black out of your head. If you don't know Back in Black, I'm so sorry. Okay, let's talk about who our guest is today.
Let's just jump right into it.
Rock star.
I know. So today I'm super excited. We have Lori Rogers with us, and Lori is a caregiver of her adult son who is now 33. He was diagnosed with autism at 2.5 years old. Now she's taken the last 30 years of her caregiving journey to learn and to create some amazing organizations, and she now shares the practices that have shifted her approach to caregiving. And what she says is that simple daily activities and mindset shifts attract a life-changing experience. But she also says that she's a recovering worrywart. And Lori, that I'm like so excited because I am a worrywart daily. I already told you that. So just turn it on.
JJ takes that on for Emily and myself. I will worry for everyone today.
I know. So Lori, we are excited to have you here, and thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you.
We're ready.
You guys are just a spark of fresh air. I love it. I love listening to you too. Awesome.
So let's talk about your family because I know that you have a daughter. Let's talk about, we'll start. Natalie says you were born and then jump to the good part. So you were born. Tell us where you're from.
Background, though.
So tell me a little background
info. A background. Okay, so I grew up for the first 12 years of my life outside of New York City in Suffern, New York. And moved to, oh my gosh, we thought we were moving to the end of the world. We moved to north of Buffalo, New York, and to Youngstown, New York. So if you look at a map of New York State, because people always say, there's nothing north of Buffalo. I'm like, well, pull out a map, go to the top left corner of New York State, and there's a little town called Youngstown. It's on Lake Ontario. And I grew up, went to high school, junior high, and all that there. And I still have amazing, great friends. We just got back from our 45th high school reunion. It's just an amazing place to grow up. It's gorgeous. And near Niagara Falls, New York. So if you've never been there, it's quite beautiful. So that was, and I did grow up kind of a worry wart, and worried about getting my work done, getting my homework done, not getting into trouble, this, that, the other thing. I mean, I had a lot of fun, but there was always that kind of background noise in my brain. You're like, be careful, or whatever, your ego trying to save you from death all the time or destruction or whatever. And then I ended up going to college in Boston and was in college for 5 years. I got a master's in math, so I'm very black and white, logical thinking type person. And and then I went to New York. I got a job at Avon Products in New York City, lived there, married, had children, the whole thing. And when I became a mom in 1989, our daughter was born, and we moved back to Boston. So now I'm outside of Boston. And that's where we raised our children and our family. Mm-hmm. And when you're a mom, you're a caregiver per se, but you're just doing your mom thing. It's like easy peasy when you have a typical kid.
That's right.
Like, that's the way I look at it. I mean, I'm sorry, moms. I know it's not easy. What I'm saying is when they're typical children compared to one that has an autism diagnosis, it's easy, in my view. And I'm generalizing, but whatever. Sorry about that. I don't mean it's easy every day. So, but there are more challenges, I guess I should say, when you have a child diagnosed with autism, especially when it happens in 1993. There's no internet. There's barely any research. How do you connect with other parents? How do you learn more? I remember I went to the library to get some books on it. There was nothing. And so we're talking, 31 years ago when he was diagnosed. And they didn't call it autism then. They called it pervasive developmental disorder.
That's right, PDD.
So try to find something on that. Nothing. So as the years went on, and we dove right in, I think I had a day where I cried for a day. And then my husband Neil and I so my daughter was 4.5, Craig was 2.5 at the time. And we just dove right in. Okay, so I didn't think twice. We didn't think twice. We're like, what do we need to do to support him, get him healthier, do what we need to do? And then as, diet and supplements, and we went everywhere. We turned over every rock we could to help to heal him and to heal his body and help him to feel better. Every OT therapy, speech therapy, blah, da, 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 you name it, we did it. And can you imagine? I think back on it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, here I was, this worrywart, kind of anxious about things, and then I've got this challenge. I don't even know, honestly, I don't know you just do it. And because I had an amazing support system, Craig has amazing aunts and uncles, he has a dad, and I have a husband that is supportive and just helped me and said, if I came in with a new idea, sure, let's go try that. So that's key, I think, to have that support team around you. We're lucky enough to live near a couple of universities, and I would hire students that were special education students, and they would come in after school and help with Craig or on the weekends, so that I had time with my daughter and to take her out, because he couldn't really go out in public. He just ran around and ran. He never sat still. So to have time with that other child was key as well. Yeah. And then when Craig was 3.5, Amanda was 5.5, I'm pregnant with my third child. I'm like, what am I doing?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I know. So I'm like, but Cam is an angel and he is just what Craig needed. It's just what our family needed. It's just what Craig needed, an annoying younger brother that treated him just like a regular sibling, pulled the remote control away from him, made him go outside and pitch to him and wiffle ball, made him, play with him. Like, it was just the nudge Craig needed in a sibling. And he's awesome. Cam's awesome. He says to me, Mom, I know I wasn't planned. I said, Cam, just want you to know none of you kids were planned, okay? So it's so great.
Just
okay? So, Neil and I decided we weren't going to sit and moan and groan and live in victimhood. Believe me, there were days that I did. Yeah. Or I lived in victimhood or jealousy or, oh my God, look at that 5-year-old. He's out there playing soccer. Craig couldn't. He couldn't. His body wouldn't let him, and I could talk about that later, but let him do the things he needed to do to participate in typical things, right? So, so yes, there were times when it was like, ugh, or lived in that world of, I would say, sorrow, maybe a little jealousy, that kind of thing. But then you just snap out of it and you say, no, okay, we're going to go on. Then there was hope. Oh, I'm going to go see this doctor. I'm going to go try that therapy, and then you grab onto a little bit of hope that he can get better and he can start talking and he can do this and that and the other thing. And then we had our two typical children on either end that were doing fabulous and growing and just doing fun things. And Craig came along, and we just brought him to baseball games or soccer games or, flourishing things that our other two kids were doing. And we started, when Craig was 3.5, we started I guess you would call it, it was a 501c3 called Parents Assisting Special Educators. And it was a way for PACE, we called it PASE. So it was a way for us to give back. And what we did was, it was like a PTO for special needs programs. So we raised money for the special needs teachers or OTs or speech therapists in the school districts for national, like our surrounding communities. We raised the money. The teachers or OTs or PTs or whatever would write in, like literally write us letters. Because again, remember the internet? It's like, yeah, no, not really yet. and request things. Actually, there was email then. So I guess so in 1994, 95, I think there was the internet.
It's the beginnings of the internet.
The beginnings, right? And they would request things like Velcro for their communication boards, or mats where the kids could sit, or a beanbag chair so the kid could sit and be scrunched in a beanbag chair. One of the first things we did was we created a sensory integration room in the preschool Craig was in. So we bought the swings, the ball pit, the bean table, all the things that you needed for sensory integration. It's a part of an OT. And now every school in Nashua has a sensory integration room in their school. So it was so important to the therapy of these kids to feel where their body is in space, you know. So Pace lasted his years through high school. And once he left high school, you know, we walked away from it because we went on to the adult world. And so that was a way for us to connect with other parents, show his teachers and therapists that we were here for you. We're part of the team. We weren't, I mean, yes, we asked for things for Craig for sure. You know, we did. But we're part of the team too. We're giving back. So it was a two-way street instead of a one-way street. And, you know, it was, you know, up and down through his years, because you're like, oh my gosh, he's not doing that. Oh my gosh, he's not doing that. And it's, you know, that kind of sorrow. It was kind of sorrow, I would say. You know, you thought you were having a child that was going to be doing this, and they're over here doing this. And that takes some time to grieve.
You know, guys, I think we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. I don't know about you, but my inbox is always cluttered with useless emails. But there's one I always open: the Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver newsletter. You may say, Natalie, what makes yours so special? Well, I'm biased, but don't just take my word for it. Here's what our subscribers say they love. First, it comes once per month, and you can read it in under 5 minutes. Next, you'll find amazing tips and resources to use in your everyday life. And who doesn't love a recommendation? These sisters do, which is why we share sister-approved products and discount links to save you time and money. And of course, you're first to know about the upcoming month's confessions. Just like our show, you're guaranteed to relate, be inspired, leave with helpful tips and resources, and of course, laugh. Go to our website, confessionsofareluctantcaregiver.com, to sign up for our newsletter today.
Hey, everybody. So we are back, and we're going to catch up. I got a question for Lori. This is an important question. Lori, you have brothers and sisters, I think, or sisters. Where are you in the birth order?
My brother is the oldest, and I'm the oldest daughter. So there's my brother, me, and then 2 more girls, my sisters.
That's always important. We like to ask that because I'm the oldest, and your attributes sounded something like the oldest. the math, the worry, all that. I was like, she's got to be the oldest. So very close. I mean, you have an older brother. He doesn't really count.
Right. Actually, I wouldn't count him. So I want to kind of like I know our listeners are kind of like, were JJ and Natalie there for that first 12 minutes? Because honestly, you're like laying out this story about all these things are going on. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, and then what happened? But I have some questions though, because the part that I missed, there's like 3 questions actually that I have. Like, first, what was the first signs? Because if you're thinking about, and I'm familiar, again, working in the mental health field, and I've worked with children on the spectrum, it absolutely was pervasive developmental delay, which is like this broad, giant bucket of diagnosis, and what we like to call like a mood disorder, like NOS, which is not otherwise specified, which is code for I don't know. PDD was the I'm not really sure. So what were the first signs as a parent that you're like, this is a little off? And was the diagnosis something that was easy for you to get? Because at some point you switch over, and I agree with you when you said, I'm not trying to downplay our parents with everyday normal kids. Like, let's just be real. We're speaking kind of plainly. Let's be friends.
Yeah.
But when you have a child that has special needs, whether it's a chronic illness, a complex illness, or a disability, whatnot, that is a different level of doctor's appointments, follow-up, training, because you start to get training at this point. Like, there's not a lot of parent training.
Well, I say I became, when I do presentations about my top 10 things I would suggest parents do with a diagnosis today, I say you become a speech therapist, an OT, a PT. Oh, and don't forget you're a mom too. And oh yeah, and you have 2 other kids or 3 other kids and you're a mom to them too. You become a taxi driver because you're going to appointments and therapies and things like that. You become this thing, something you never thought you would learn and do. Amazing on so many levels, but overwhelming at the same time. Yes. Yeah. So our first signs that something wasn't right is he wasn't talking by like 18 months, 19, 20 months. And our pediatrician said, oh, it's okay. His older sister's talking for him and this, that, and the other thing. It's like, all right, well, I'm not really happy with that answer. So then I went to see a speech therapist at our local hospital. This is at about 2 years old. And she said, I think there's something going on here. There's some kind of a developmental delay. He's not even playing with these toys correctly. Well, Neil and I were so offended and upset. And we're like, she's crazy. That can't be true. Wow, wow, wow. So it took us like 4 months later to see, okay, other things are going on. You know, he's not looking at us. He's not talking. He's running around crazy. He can't sit still. But he could sit down and do a puzzle. Like I knew he was smart because I'd sit down with him and we'd do a puzzle together, or I'd tell him to go get something. He would go get it. Like I knew he knew things, but it wasn't like a typical development because I had an older daughter and I saw what that was like. So finally we ended up at 2.5 years old at an early intervention center right here in Nashua, New Hampshire. And there was a pediatrician, an OT, a PT, a sociologist, and a speech therapist as a team to evaluate Craig. And we went in twice and they evaluated him and they came back with the PDD-NOS diagnosis with a pamphlet. Here you go. Right? And that was devastating. Like I said, I cried for probably 2 days straight. And then we said, then we like put the bootstraps up and said, okay, what do we do? So we got him into an OT program, speech therapy. We went to Gymboree. We just started all these things to help him interact and communicate and be with other kids and calm his body down. And then I met up with other parents and they're like, well, Lori, did you look at this? Did you look at yeast overgrowth? Did you look at gluten-free diet, dairy-free diet, getting rid of food coloring? So then there's this whole world out there of medical interventions that you can do to help heal these kids. And now I'm happy to say I met parents last fall that are recovering their little kids because they're doing so many medical interventions and nutritional and otherwise. And I can talk about that a little bit. So little by little, I started, dairy-free, gluten-free, no food coloring, no cane sugar, and looking at why does he have yeast overgrowth? Why does he have, I'm just going to say it. We saw the symptoms starting after his second MMR. No, was it his first MMR? His first MMR after his vaccines. And I'm not saying that was the only straw, but it was certainly a straw that broke the camel's back. He was
may have exacerbated it potentially.
Yes. He was on many antibiotics because he was allergic to milk and had many ear infections. So what do? They put him on the pink stuff. So he had rounds and rounds and rounds of amoxicillin, which they don't even do now. Like they don't even do that now. So he grew up and I didn't know enough to know. Now I do, but then I was like, I trusted what the physician said. Oh yeah, give him this. This will help. This will help. Do this, do this, do this. And then on top of it, he's getting vaccinations, even though he still had an ear infection. No doctor would do that now. I hope they don't. But it was just a accumulation of things that I think exasperated it.
So
I do this.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jay.
So I guess and I know, Natalie, if your question is about her son, mine kind of jumps ahead because I know that in 2011 you got to a point and you talk about anxiety, you talk about fear and worry, and your daughter is the one that took you to this wellness fair. But do you feel like a lot of those emotions, those feelings were about all this care? Because you're giving a lot of care to other people. And I want to know about the care that you've been giving yourself all these years. Were you caring for yourself? Were you working? Because you got kids. What are you doing for you during all that time?
Yes, my husband and I have a business called Rogers Marketing. Yes, I started working pretty, part-time, I would say. Craig was probably 7, 8 years old. And my youngest was 3, 4 years old, something around there. But we owned the business. I was working in it part-time. So yes, I was working. The nice thing about owning your own business is that it gives you the freedom to go back and forth to appointments, to be in your other child's school when you need to be. And so I was, we were in sales, so it was easy to do that. I didn't have a boss over my head. But for the first few years of his life, I wasn't working.
Right.
I was home, 100% of the time. And self-care. I did work out almost, let me think. I didn't even know what that word was. I don't even think anyone even said it back in the 90s or early 2000s. What? So I think what I did do was I had friends. I had fun with my friends. I did work out. Neil would take us away. He had a plan. Every quarter we'd get away for the weekend, no matter what chaos was happening. We would get out of the house. And like I said, we had those students, or my niece would come up and, or my sister, or someone would come and stay with the kids and for the weekend, and we would get away. So he knew we needed that respite. So he was smart enough to do that. But as far as, and I would go on girls' trips and I would get away. I knew I needed to do that, but it didn't call it that. It just sort of just happened that way.
Right.
Now it's much different. But then when you were talking about 2011, yes, Craig was transitioning out of high school, which is a whole other ball of wax. When you're going into the adult world, it's crazy because there's not much going on out there. Cam's doing great. My youngest son was doing great. My daughter was home because she was hurt at college. She played lacrosse in college and she got hurt on the field. So she was home recovering from her injury. And remember, we had that recession back then. You may be too young to remember that, but we did.
I remember.
And our business was our business was tanking. And I'm like, so we're like, oh my gosh, it was just like craziness. So she took us I had to drive her to the wellness fair because she couldn't drive because of her injury. I'm like, okay. And I'm walking around and I'm looking at these booths and people are talking about you create your reality with your thoughts and your words and your beliefs. And, this stream of wellness is always coming to you. Are you letting it in or not? Are you aware? I was like, what are you talking about? I was very black and white, like I said, math, brain, it didn't make any sense to me. So I grabbed some books, we went to a presentation or two, and I met with some people and I read the books and I was like, wait a minute, all I have to do is change what I'm saying and thinking every day, right? Because I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm never going to sell anything. Oh my gosh, our suppliers are just going to bail on us. Oh my gosh, I'm never going to have any more clients. Oh my gosh, we're never going to find a thing for Craig to do every day. Da, 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 da. Oh my gosh, Amanda's never going to get better. Da, 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 da. So if you can nip those in the bud, and what I would do is get a little Post-it note. And when that negative thought this is initially what I did in 2011, 2012, and I would write that story a different way. There's plenty for everyone, including me. Craigie is healthy and well and whole, and I would flip it and I'd put those sticky notes up in my office and try and tell a new story, a new perspective. I learned later on, a couple of years later, if I could look at something and say, how is this happening for me, not to me? What am I learning from this experience? And now I can look back on it and say, oh my gosh, if Craig didn't have the difficulties that he has or the challenges he has, I think I would be a totally different person. Wow. He taught me patience. He taught me regulation. He taught me calmness. He He's the one that is my teacher. I'm not teaching him anything. He's teaching me. And same with my daughter and my other son.
Yeah.
They're teaching me.
Yeah.
And he is so connected. I think all of our children are connected to our energy. But I think especially if you have a child with special needs, they are. So when my energy is regulated and calm and positive and feeling good and feeling a higher vibration, his is too. Because we are all connected in that regard. So I learned that later on, just a few years ago. I'm like, oh, geez, I wish I had known that when he was younger, because I'd be possibly a little bit of a stress factory. And so that doesn't make him feel very good. So
now, Craig is nonverbal, right?
Craig is nonverbal. He has limited speech.
Speech.
He'll loop. Like yesterday, he's with us and he'd say, Tuesday school day. Tuesdays, because Monday was a holiday. That's a pain in the neck. Tuesday school day, Tuesday. I'm like, yes, tomorrow Tim is going to pick you up. You're going to Nashua Center. You're going to do your stuff. All is well. So we kept like looping that. So he has words.
Yeah.
But what we realized 2 years ago, we found this new program called Spelling to Communicate. We just found this 2 years ago. And I don't have the board with me. I'll have to go get one. But it's a board with the alphabet on it, 26 letters of the alphabet on it. And he has a poker. And he's learned to motor planning, right? So he's learned to point to letters to spell out his wants, his needs, his goals, his knowledge, his thoughts. He's brilliant. He knows all of us. He knows everyone in his family. He knows all of of course he knows his sibling, but his cousins and aunts and uncles. Even though we'd be at parties or events, he wouldn't even really talk to them or have that social awareness of them, but he knows them. So this just happened to us 2 years ago. Now, and I could talk more about that, but now our lives we thought we were going down this path with him for his adult life. And now we're like, nope, we're going this way now because he wants a high school diploma. He wants to help other non-speaking children. He just started an Instagram account where he's talking about apraxia and in his intelligence and love. And he talks about living in this silence for 30 years. I lived in silence for 30 years. Okay, take it back, 31. He was 31 when we found this program. And it's been a game changer for us. And I really do believe if I wasn't in this place of positivity and a higher vibration and feeling better and better every day, the ideas wouldn't have flown to me. And actually, they came in twice to us before. The universe is knocking me over the head twice. Neil and I, someone mentioned the book Underestimated to us by Jamie and JB Handley. And we get the book, open the box, and it says Underestimated, an autism miracle. And I went, oh, no, not another one, not another path, not another road, not another disappointment, not another whatever, right?
Right.
And I put the book aside on the coffee table. And I didn't even open it. 6 months later, I met with a new functional medicine doctor to help Craig with his health and his healing and all. And she goes, I sat down, got my notebook ready, and she says, Lori, you've read Underestimated, right? I'm like, ah. So I said, I'll go home and read it tonight. And I did. And it's the story of a dad and I think at the time, Jamie was 18 years old. And it was exactly our story, and told the story of him discovering, or a friend had mentioned Spelling to Communicate with him, and they went to a practitioner and they tried it and realized that just because you don't speak doesn't mean you don't think, and doesn't mean you don't have thoughts and words and knowledge and amazing things in your brain. It's just that your motor cortex isn't working. So you can't do this, but the words and the knowledge are all still there. So for Craig now, he spells out, I am not autistic. I said, okay, bud, well, something's happening here. What do you want to be called? Well, I don't know. He goes, I am human, and I have apraxia. So he calls himself human, and I have apraxia. So apraxia, if you look that up, is when, the signals are going from your motor cortex to your mouth to help you, your brain knows what it wants you to do, but the signal's getting messed up. So that's our life has changed drastically because of this new communication method. He's all there. He is all there, even though his body doesn't look like he is, or his words don't seem like he is, but he is. It's amazing.
We're gonna take a break, and we'll be right back. Hey, ladies, I need to interrupt for just a second to share about the Sisterhood membership. It's basically a sale every day. And the best part, it's free. Here's the details. We're partnering with our friends at Benefit Hub and other care partners to save you money. With over 200,000 participating companies across the US and abroad, you'll find discounts at your favorite local stores, huge savings on vacations, amazing deals on home, auto, and supplemental insurances, and everything in between. Go to confessionsofareluctantcaregiver.com to sign up, and then definitely tell your friends about it. They can join too. Trust me, there's a discount for everyone. And don't forget, it's free. Okay, back to confessing.
Hey everybody, so we are back here with Lori, and I got questions. So your path has changed because again, Craig was going one way, and then now you guys are going another way. Tell me about how you're feeling with this, because I in my mind, I'm thinking of all these kids who have been diagnosed with autism, but I'm wondering how many of them are living in silence, and hopefully these people that are listening and saying, wait a minute, listen to all these tools that Lori is bringing to us. Tell me what your feelings are now compared to where you were at that 2.5 diagnosis. What's changed?
So for me, what's changed is now I am lighter. My heart is lighter. And on the days that it's not, I just ask my little angels to come in and help settle that little worry. And if there's something happening, because now my little worry is, I'm not doing enough for Craig. I'm not doing enough to move him forward. I'm not doing enough to get him those high school classes he needs. I'm not doing enough communication with him every week. So I say, okay, my sweet angels in heaven, please, send me some peace and help me just, feel better about that, or that kind of thing. So now I know I have help in the spiritual realm where I feel worthy of it, where I may not have before. I didn't before. So that's not a question. And so now I know I have support and guidance. I feel the chills right now. My heart is lighter. I feel better. I know life for him is grand. It's going to be the best is even yet to come. And I look at Craig now as this whole amazing, intelligent human that is living in a different plane than me and the rest of my family, probably. He just lives in this special, amazing place. He's not worried. He's not stressed. He lived in silence for 31 years, and he's not mad that he didn't get an education. He's not upset with Dad and I that we didn't know. So I feed off of that. So I feel like the activities that I've done and shifting my perspective has just helped me to recover from worries, because they come up day to day, every other day, whatever. But because I built up my resilience and I built up my happiness level or my vibration higher, they don't take me down to the ditch anymore. So just worrying all those years that, oh my God, he doesn't know algebra. Oh my gosh, he doesn't know his addition to. Oh my gosh, how is he going to learn to read? He's doing algebra with me yesterday. He knew it all along, and I worried for no reason, right? Oh gosh, worried for so many years for no reason. It was all in there. So the change, shifting my perspective, shifting my thoughts and my beliefs about myself and about my world and about him, has helped, lead us forward and move us forward. Yes. I think it's a lightness. It's just a lightness in my heart that I would say is different.
Let me ask you this. As you think about, because you've now been you've been Craig's mom, as well as for your daughter and Cam. Tell me your daughter's name because I didn't catch it.
Oh, Amanda.
Thank you. Because I want to be respectful. Names are important. So as you think about this stage in your life, let me ask you this, because you and your husband are caregivers for Craig, and we're just now finishing up our Caregiving Youth series. I would think that his siblings were as part of his upbringing as well, and the roles and responsibilities. And, would they, if you were to say to them, what was their role in being a sibling, but also supporting him? What would they say too, would you think?
I think they would say Amanda was the best big sister. And when Craig was finally open and communicating on the boards, Amanda came over and I said, is there something you want to communicate to Amanda? And he spelt out, Amanda, I love you. Mm-hmm. And it was the most beautiful thing. And the first time he was ever able to say that to her. Eve, because growing up, she was an amazing, nurturing big sister, but she didn't get that back from him. Because he didn't know how to show that, or his body wouldn't let him show it. He may have wanted to, but he couldn't show it himself. So for her to hear that, same with Cam. He said the same thing to Cam. So Cam would ask, Craig, what was one of the, what was your favorite activity to do with me? And Craig spelled out Tickle Run. And it was this game they had where they would tickle each other and chase each other. And it was just, even though he could never tell Cam that as a young person, he can now on the boards. So they played a pivotal role, and they still do, in his life, and just treated him as a typical kid, treated him as a typical brother. They were very patient with him, even though, and I'm sure it must have been hard for them to not get that feedback from him back to them growing up. But now they are getting that back from him. So they were amazing siblings.
So as you think about his future, this is, I think, the one thing that I think most parents of children with disabilities always worry about the most is who will take care of Craig and planning for him. And is that something that you as a family talk about openly? And this is what the plan is. This is how we're doing it. Because we talk a lot about with caregiving. A lot of families don't talk about the finances, what's going to happen next. This is where you know what I mean? Especially for him as because he does have some different abilities, and how does he interact in the world? Because I very much hear you as you are the mama bear, Lori, you are the mama bear for him. So what is how have you all planned? Because I think this is what a lot of listeners would be like, I want to hear about that.
So he's 33 now. He spelled out to me, I want to live with friends that I can communicate with. I'm like, okay, cool. And in New Hampshire right now, the model is enhanced family care. So you live with another family and they get a stipend. And so he has moved to 10 minutes from us down the road. And he lives with Roland and Evelyn, who he loves, and lives with them. So when he moved in there 6 months or whenever it was, he said then the first time I saw him, he spells out, I am not living with friends. I'm like, I know you're not quite yet, but we're going to get there. So yes, we talk about it with Cam and Amanda and Neil and I, and we for now, this enhanced family care model is working for him and working for us. The problem with it is when the caretaker says, I don't want to do this anymore, right? Then that your adult child has to move. So those transitions are hard. So there are people in the state right now who are creating, I don't like to call them group homes. I call it like a supervised home. Because if your typical kid lives in a house with 2 or 3 other roommates, do you call that a group home? No. You call it where they live. You call it their apartment. You call it whatever. It's like, why do we call, I don't know, I got to investigate that. Where did that word come from? When we put several disabled people together, oh, it's a group home. And I'm like, oh my gosh, well, whatever. So I have to get over that, but I will. I'm just wondering, why do we call it that? So in New Hampshire right now, there's these amazing organizations of parents and their adult children, disabled children that are differently abled kids that are looking at putting together houses where 2, 3, 4, maybe up to 12 can live and forever. So it's that forever piece we're missing. We're missing that right now. And we know that. So is that an option for Craig? Sure. It could be in the future. Yes, right now he's really happy where he's at, but it's not forever. And that's always been our thing. It's like, but yes, thanks, New Hampshire. This is amazing. This is not a forever answer for anyone. So let's get better at this. Mm-hmm. And there are other states in the country that are doing some beautiful, I don't know if you know, Jenny McCarthy and this doctor, I forget the doctor's name, they're raising money to create this amazing space in Tennessee where there's apartments and homes, and then caregivers can live there too, in and out, on and off. Not on and off, but you have a rotating schedule, so you're not always living there. Mm-hmm. And they're creating this model, and I forget what it's called, but if you look it up, it's out there in Tennessee right now. So I think we know in this community that we need a different choice, a better choice than moving kids from house to house to house. And it's respectfully, I feel like he deserves to live in this beautiful place where there's other young people his age-ish, and hopefully other spellers that he can communicate with, because there's thousands of them out there right now that are using the spelling boards to speak. If you go to, there's a website you can go to, it's I as in in dash ASC.org. And that's the woman that created this program. And there's so many parents to connect with out there that are doing this with their young. I think you can start as young as 6 years old, 5 or 6, once a child knows how to spell. He always knew how to spell it, so it is a conversation we have. We definitely have it with Amanda and Craig. I'm sorry, and Cam, and Craig too, and Cam. And for now, it's like copacetic. It's all good, but this is not the forever answer. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and I know, Jay, we're actually close to the end of our time. I can't even, I'm looking at our time. I'm like, oh. Because I think there's so many nuggets of wisdom here that you shared, both in what you kind of evolved and what you've learned over the years, as well as kind of as if you're thinking about what does the future hold for him. And it's still, I hear unknown in there. I hear a lot of unknown and hopeful, because mm-hmm. I know you're an advocate as well. I want to go to sister questions real quick, Jay, because I know you probably got one.
I always have one. So, and I want to make sure that we'll post the information about the Spelling to Communicate, because what I love about your story, Lori, is that when I start the introduction and you feel that mode of, okay, Lori has a son and he has autism. And that's usually the way the story starts. And it's like, oh, but yours is like, oh my gosh, it's fantastic that look at where your story has gone. It's just amazing. But it's Craig. Like, he has lifted my heart. Like, he's so much. I'm like, you go, Craig. You move out on your own. You do your thing. So here's my question for you, though, because you talk about realization. You talk about simple daily steps that I think have improved caregiving, improved your life. If you had just a couple simple steps that you could share with someone that we're out here and we're struggling because caregiving is hard. You understand that it's a hot mess sometimes, give me a couple simple steps that would get us going, that would get us moving in a good direction.
Okay. The first thing I would do is maybe grab the book, The High Five Habit, written by Mel Robbins. And I get up in the morning, I go to my mirror, I give myself a high five, and I just remember the Saturday Night Live little skit they did with the affirmation, and I say something nice to myself. And because God forbid, that could be the only nice thing I hear all day. I don't know. So it's like, say something nice to yourself. You give yourself a high five. There's a whole science behind it. And now I have Craig's direct support people do it with him. I'm like, when you pick him up, you give him a high five and tell him how great a day it's going to be. And so I like to impress on that. I grab my journal. I write down 3 things that I appreciate, training my brain to look for things all day to appreciate, as opposed to, because our brain is wired to look for things of danger. That's how we're wired. So we want to kind of rewire that brain to look for things of appreciation. This morning, I appreciated so much that Craig did a podcast. He has an Instagram account now. It's Craig_speaks. And he spelled out his caption for his post yesterday. And so I really appreciated that we did that together. And he was so happy and smiling, and appreciated his trainer yesterday that came to get him to go out training, exercise and training with him and things like that. Or just, I appreciate this hot cup of coffee this morning. It could be anything, but you're training your brain to look for good things. I think about the next thing I do, and this is all in about, 15 minutes. It's not like it's, hours. I think about something the day before that made me laugh or smile or made me feel good. I write it down, I think about it, and guess what? All those good feelings come back into your body, and your brain doesn't know if it's happening right now or if it happened yesterday. It doesn't know. So it gets all that good energy and those good chemicals moving around your body again, right? And then I meditate for 5 minutes, and I think about, and then I take about 5 or 6 minutes, and I pray, and I talk to my teams of my angels up there and my spirits in the spirit world. And I say, okay, guys, today I have this podcast I'm going to be on. I expect you all to, I give you permission to come in and help me with that and my communication skills and that kind of thing. Or, if I have an appointment with Craig, all right, team, let's send in some good communication today between Craig and I, and good regulation between he and I. And so there's many things that I teach that I do to help raise my own vibration and my own positivity level. I think the most important thing for me was the shift in my perspective, because our perspective of our world estimates 90% of our happiness level. So how I perceive things. So let's say Craig's having a bad day and he's in the ditch and it's going rough. And like you said, it's a hot mess. So where does your heart go? Where does your stomach go? It goes down there too. So what I try to do on those days is, now I have this resilience to rise back up faster and quicker. It's not that you don't feel it. It's not that you don't have the emotion. Sure, you feel it. Address it. Acknowledge it. I'm aware of it, but I'm going to let this pass, because you know what? I know tomorrow's going to be better. I know that if my energy is higher and softer and calmer, his will be too. And I know he's going through this because of a shift in a caretaker, or a shift in his direct support person, or a shift in his schedule. And it's okay. And though I don't let those events take me down to the ditch anymore like they used to. Mm-hmm. I go down a few notches, but I'm able to come back up because
that builds resilience. Because it's exactly that. I mean, you're building everything I've heard you say, whether it be I like the high five habit. I've read that. We love Mel Robbins. Journaling, meditation, praying, a shift in perspective. It's all super intentional though. And it's all things that are probably in isolation are 5 to 10 minutes max. And so if you couldn't do all those things in the morning, you could sprinkle them throughout your day as well. Mm-hmm. And it's what I'm thinking. So for people who are like, gosh, that sounds like a ton of stuff that I have to do, I think I'd rather just sleep in. I'm like, actually, you can still do them. You don't have to be rigid in how you do them. And I think it's our rigidity that can really actually make it even more stressful to us, because we're like, I have to get this done. Because make sure that with doing these things that are truly self-care strategies for yourself, that they don't become an obligation that is just another task for you to check the box. That would be my concern.
Yes, you don't want them to stress you out. That's not right. Like, that's not the point. It just so happens that now I'm at a point in my life where I don't have children at home. Believe me, I think about having 3 or 4 kids at home, and then you get up and your day just starts, and here we are, we're going back to school. Yes, how does that young mom or that young caregiver or that young dad find that 15 minutes? And maybe when you're in line waiting to drop off your child at school, you think about something that was so wonderful yesterday, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Or you have your journal with you all the time in your purse and you just pull it out. Oh, and you're sitting there waiting for something, or you're in line at the grocery store. Oh, I really appreciate this, cashier. She's happy. She's smiling at me. Yes, you don't. Now, I'm just a little OCD that way. So yes, I do it in the morning, but I don't have young kids in the morning anymore that I have to get out the door.
Yeah.
So you're right. It doesn't have to be all first thing. It can be filtered throughout the day. So instead of social media or flipping through your Facebook or going through whatever, that's like 6 minutes that you could have done something for yourself where you're not playing, oh my gosh, look what their kid's doing, or this, that, or the other thing. Then you're not doing that. The other thing I don't do anymore is I don't watch the news at all. Because why do I want that negative energy around me? It doesn't serve me. So I stopped watching the news probably back in like 2011. You still know what's going on. You have people around you. You know the big things. But you just choose, even though I try to call myself an even though person now, even though I know, that's happening. I do believe, it's my belief that all of our energy is connected. So given that I believe that, if I stay higher and lighter and happier and more positive, that's going to affect everyone else too.
Well, that's totally true.
That's my belief. So it doesn't serve me to be in a ditch with anyone else.
I know, and people will try to put you in their ditch without question.
Oh.
I have one last question, Jay, and which is always the favorite question, and then we're going to let you go. What is your favorite guilty pleasure? What is the one thing you do just for yourself?
Wow. Oh, my favorite guilty pleasure. I would say probably getting like a great facial. There's a few things actually. Or just being by myself. Like let's say Neil wants to go out or he wants to go up the street, grab a seat, and like for me, just to sit here in peace. I don't love it. Or love it. A great feel, just being by myself. Sometimes you just don't even. I think about those parents, those young parents. I'm like, when do they have a second to breathe and just be by themselves? So I would say just having space and time.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Lori, this has been such a wonderful conversation. People in the background don't know we had some technology issues. So we've got to spend extra time with you today. And it was actually, it was exactly meant to go the way it was supposed to go. And I love how we've ended because you've given so many kernels and nuggets of wisdom that you're like, I think that are going to bless so many people. And we thank you for being here with us today. We appreciate you more than you know.
Thank you for having me. And this just came into my brain, so I feel like I have to say it. Those beautiful children, young adults in your lives that may be having challenges, they're beautiful, whole, amazing souls. They are. And I'm going to cry saying that, but it's true. That's my belief.
100%. Guys, thanks so much for joining us today. We will see you next time when we confess again. Bye-bye.